Captain Derek Williams leaned back in his chair on the bridge of the starship Voyager, gazing out at the stars streaking past as they traveled at warp speed. The mission had been routine so far, mapping uncharted sectors of the galaxy, cataloging new celestial phenomena, and occasionally encountering alien life forms. It was all in a day's work for the seasoned crew of the Voyager. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," Lieutenant Maria Chen reported, her eyes scanning the readouts on her console. "It's coming from a planet in an uncharted system." Derek leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Can you get a visual on the planet?" Maria nodded, pressing a few buttons. The main view screen flickered and then displayed an image of a beautiful, verdant planet. Oceans glistened under the light of its sun, and vast forests covered its continents. "It's like a paradise," Derek remarked. "What's the source of the distress signal?" "It's automated," Maria replied. "No specific details, just a general SOS." "All right. Set a course for the planet," Derek ordered. "Let's see who needs our help." As the Voyager descended through the atmosphere of Eden Prime, the crew marveled at the lush landscapes below. They landed in a clearing near a shimmering city of spires and domes, where a group of figures awaited them. "Welcome to Eden Prime," a melodic voice greeted them as they disembarked. The speaker was a tall, elegant alien woman with iridescent skin and flowing silver hair. "I am Sarah, Queen of the Seraphons. Thank you for responding to our call for help." Derek stepped forward, extending his hand. "I'm Captain Derek Williams of the starship Voyager. We're here to assist in any way we can." Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Your arrival is most fortuitous. Please come with us. We have much to discuss." The Seraphons led the crew of the Voyager through their magnificent city. The streets were lined with vibrant blooming flowers and trees that seemed to hum with life. Everywhere they looked, humans saw Seraphon women, each more beautiful than the last, their features otherworldly and enchanting. Sarah took them to a grand hall where a feast had been prepared. The tables were laden with exotic fruits, savory dishes, and crystalline glasses filled with glowing liquids. As the crew settled in, Sarah raised a glass. "To new friends and allies," she toasted. The crew exchanged glances, raising their glasses in return. Despite the warm welcome, a sense of unease lingered in the air. As the evening progressed, Derek found himself seated next to Sarah, who seemed particularly interested in him. "Tell me, Captain, what brings you to this part of the galaxy?" "We're explorers," Derek explained, "mapping uncharted territories, seeking out new life and civilizations." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "A noble pursuit. We too value knowledge and discovery. Perhaps our paths were meant to cross." Meanwhile, Maria and the other officers mingled with the Seraphons, learning about their culture and technology. The Seraphons were advanced, with remarkable achievements in bioengineering and medicine. They spoke of their peaceful society and the harmony they had achieved with nature. Yet, as the night wore on, the crew began to notice odd occurrences. One by one, members of the crew started to feel unwell. Ensign Rodriguez clutched his head, complaining of dizziness, while Lieutenant Green had to excuse herself, looking pale and nauseous. "Captain, something's not right," Maria whispered to Derek as the feast wound down. "I think we need to investigate further." Derek nodded, his own unease growing. "Agreed. Let's keep our eyes open and find out what's really going on here." As the crew of the Voyager settled into their quarters provided by the Seraphons, Derek and Maria gathered a small team to investigate. The city, while stunning, held an eerie silence at night. Guided by dimly lit paths, they moved discreetly through the shadows. Their first stop was the medical facility, where the ailing crew members were being treated. Dr. Helen Park, the ship's medic, had been overseeing their care and had her suspicions. "Captain, there's something in the food and air that's affecting us," Dr. Park explained as they examined Rodriguez. "It's subtle, but our systems are reacting to it." "Could it be intentional?" Maria asked. Dr. Park nodded grimly. "It's possible. I need more data, but we should be cautious." Leaving the medical facility, Derek and his team headed towards the central data repository they had identified earlier. The Seraphons' technology was advanced, but their security systems were no match for Maria's expertise. She hacked into the mainframe, accessing classified files. "What are we looking at?" Derek asked, peering over her shoulder. "Research logs," Maria replied, her fingers flying over the console. "Genetic experiments mostly. They're studying various species' DNA, including ours." Derek's stomach tightened. "Why?" "Enhancements," Maria said, her voice flat. "They've been trying to integrate beneficial traits from other species into their own genome." Just then, the door behind them hissed open. A squad of Seraphon guards entered, weapons drawn. "Intruders!" one of them shouted. Derek and his team sprang into action, fighting their way out of the repository. The Seraphons, though highly skilled, were unprepared for the humans' determination and resourcefulness. They managed to escape into the labyrinthine streets of the city, but the alarm had been raised. "We need to find out more about these experiments," Derek said, panting as they ducked into an alley, "and why they're so interested in us." "There's a lab facility not far from here," Maria said, checking the data she had downloaded. "It's heavily guarded, but it might have the answers we need." As they approached the lab, the scale of the Seraphon's operations became clear. The facility was vast, with multiple levels and advanced security measures. Derek's team infiltrated the building, avoiding detection with a combination of stealth and quick thinking. In the depths of the lab, they found what they were looking for: rows of containment units holding various alien species, each one subjected to different experiments. Derek's heart sank as he saw the extent of the Seraphon's manipulations. "We have to stop this," Maria said, her voice trembling with anger. "We will," Derek vowed. "But first we need to get this information back to the ship and warn the rest of the crew." Their mission now clear, Derek and his team prepared to make their escape from the lab and return to the Voyager. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of not just their crew, but potentially countless other species, hung in the balance. The team, having successfully extracted crucial data from the Seraphon lab, navigated through the city's underground tunnels. They returned to their quarters, where they shared the grim news with the rest of the crew. "We need to act fast," Derek said, his voice firm. "They're using us, and we can't allow it to continue." Lieutenant Maria Chen outlined their plan to disable the Seraphon's communication and security systems, allowing them a chance to escape. But first, they needed to gather more information about the extent of the Seraphon experiments. "We have to get into the central archives," Maria explained. "That's where they'll keep the detailed records of their experiments." The central archives were located in the heart of the city, heavily guarded and accessible only to high-ranking officials. The crew devised a daring plan to infiltrate the building, using their advanced technology and wits. Derek and Maria, disguised as Seraphon officials, led a small team through the bustling city center. They passed numerous checkpoints, relying on their forged credentials and quick thinking to avoid suspicion. Finally, they reached the imposing entrance of the central archives. Inside, the building was a labyrinth of corridors and secure rooms. Maria hacked into the security systems, guiding the team through the complex network of passages. They reached the archive's mainframe, a vast repository of knowledge and secrets. Maria quickly accessed the mainframe, downloading the detailed records of the Seraphon experiments. The information was extensive and disturbing, revealing the full extent of the genetic manipulation and the Seraphon's plans to dominate the galaxy by enhancing their species with traits from others. Just as they were about to leave, an alarm blared. The building went into lockdown, and Seraphon guards swarmed the corridors. Derek and his team fought their way out, narrowly escaping capture. They regrouped at a safe house, their mission accomplished but the danger far from over. "We have what we need," Maria said, catching her breath. "But we need to act quickly. They're on to us." Back at the safe house, the crew reviewed the data Maria had extracted. The records confirmed their worst fears. The Seraphons were not only experimenting on other species, but had plans to use these enhancements to expand their empire aggressively. "We need to disable their security systems and make a run for the ship," Derek said, formulating a plan. "We'll use the distraction to get everyone back on board and take off." The crew split into teams, each with a specific task. Maria and a small group would sabotage the city's main power grid, causing a blackout that would give them cover. Derek and another team would secure the escape route and gather the remaining crew members. As night fell, the operation began. Maria's team infiltrated the power station, expertly avoiding detection. She planted explosive charges at key points, ready to trigger a city-wide blackout. Meanwhile, Derek led his team through the city, gathering the scattered crew members and preparing for their escape. The tension was palpable, each second bringing them closer to either freedom or disaster. At the appointed time, Maria triggered the charges. The city plunged into darkness, alarms blaring as the power grid failed. Taking advantage of the chaos, Derek's team moved swiftly, guiding the crew through the darkened streets towards their ship. As the crew navigated the chaos, Derek received a message from Queen Sarah, requesting an urgent meeting. Suspecting a trap, but knowing he couldn't ignore it, Derek decided to confront Sarah while the rest of the crew continued their escape. "I'll handle this," Derek told Maria. "Get the crew to the ship and prepare for takeoff." Derek made his way to the royal palace, now cloaked in darkness and confusion. He found Sarah waiting for him in her private chambers, her expression unreadable. "Captain Williams," she greeted him, her voice smooth and inviting. "I see you've discovered our little secret." "It's more than a little secret, Sarah," Derek replied, his tone steely. "You've been using us and other species for your own gain." Sarah sighed, her demeanor shifting from seductive to serious. "You don't understand, Derek. Our survival depends on these experiments. We face threats you cannot imagine." "At what cost?" Derek demanded. "You've turned your world into a trap, luring in innocent beings for your experiments." Sarah stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "I did what I had to do for my people, but it doesn't have to be this way. Join us, Derek. Together we can achieve so much more." Derek felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Sarah's pheromones were powerful, clouding his judgment. But he steeled himself, focusing on his duty and the lives of his crew. "No, Sarah," he said firmly. "This ends now." Sarah's expression hardened. So be it. She lunged at him with surprising speed, but Derek was ready. They clashed in a fierce struggle, Sarah's enhanced strength matching his resolve. He fought with everything he had, knowing that the fate of his crew depended on him. Finally, with a well-placed strike, Derek incapacitated Sarah, leaving her unconscious on the floor. He didn't have time to celebrate his victory. He had to get back to his crew. Derek rushed through the palace, avoiding guards and making his way back to the rendezvous point. As he emerged into the night, he saw the Voyager in the distance, its engines powering up for takeoff. He sprinted towards the ship, his heart pounding. The crew had done their part. Now it was up to him to reach them in time. Derek leaped onto the loading ramp just as the ship lifted off, the city below erupting into chaos. He made his way to the bridge where Maria and the rest of the crew awaited him. "We did it," Maria said, relief evident in her voice. "Not yet," Derek replied, taking the helm. "We need to get out of here and warn others about the Seraphons." The Voyager soared into the sky, leaving Eden Prime behind. As they broke free of the planet's atmosphere, Derek couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph and relief. They had survived, but the battle was far from over. The galaxy needed to know the truth about the Seraphons, and the crew of the Voyager was determined to spread the word. The Voyager ascended through the atmosphere of Eden Prime, the chaotic cityscape shrinking below them. Derek remained at the helm, his focus unwavering. They had escaped the immediate threat, but they were far from safe. "Captain, Seraphin ships are in pursuit," Lieutenant Maria Chen reported from the tactical console. "They've launched fighters and are closing in fast." Derek's grip tightened on the controls. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Divert power to shields and engines." The Voyager surged forward, weaving through the incoming fire from the Seraphon fighters. The crew worked in unison, each member performing their duties with precision and determination. The ship shook as enemy blasts impacted the shields, but they held strong. "We can't outrun them forever," Maria warned. "We need a plan." Derek nodded, his mind racing. "Plot a course through the asteroid belt nearby. It's risky, but it might give us the cover we need to lose them." The Voyager veered towards the asteroid belt, the dense field of rocks and debris looming ahead. The Seraphon ships followed, their pilots skilled and relentless. The crew braced themselves as they entered the treacherous terrain. Derek's hands moved deftly over the controls, guiding the ship through narrow gaps and around massive asteroids. The Voyager danced through the field, its hull narrowly avoiding collision after collision. The pursuing fighters struggled to keep up, their larger numbers becoming a disadvantage in the tight space. "Shields at 60%, Maria reported. "We're taking hits, but we're holding. Keep it together, everyone," Derek urged. "We're almost through." As they neared the edge of the asteroid belt, Derek spotted a massive asteroid with a cavernous interior. An idea sparked in his mind. "Maria, fire a few shots at that asteroid. Let's create a distraction." Maria complied, targeting the asteroid's weak points. Explosions rocked the asteroid, sending debris flying and creating a cloud of dust and fragments. The Voyager used the chaos to slip through undetected, emerging on the other side of the belt. "We did it," Maria said, her voice filled with relief. "We've lost them." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the successful escape. But Derek knew their journey was far from over. They needed to regroup and plan their next move. The Voyager landed in a remote part of Eden Prime, far from the Seraphon cities. The crew disembarked, setting up a temporary camp in the dense jungle. They needed time to recover and assess their situation. Derek gathered his senior officers for a briefing. "We're safe for now, but we need to find a way off this planet and warn others about the Seraphons." "We need to understand more about this place," Maria said. "The ancient ruins we found earlier might hold the key. If we can learn more about the Elisarians, we might find a way to defeat the Seraphons." Derek agreed. "All right, we'll split into 2 teams. One will stay here and protect the ship, while the other will explore the ruins and gather information." Derek, Maria, and a small team ventured into the jungle, navigating through the thick foliage and dangerous wildlife. The journey was arduous, with each step bringing new challenges. They encountered hostile creatures and natural traps, but their determination kept them moving forward. After hours of trekking, they reached the ancient ruins. The site was vast, with towering structures and intricate carvings that hinted at a once great civilization. The team entered a large temple, its interior illuminated by shafts of sunlight filtering through cracks in the ceiling. "This place is incredible," Maria said, awe in her voice. "The Elisarians were advanced, far beyond anything we've seen." Derek examined the carvings, deciphering the ancient language. "These depict a great war," he said. "The Elisarians faced an enemy they couldn't defeat, so they created a weapon of immense power, but it required activation codes hidden in their capital." "Do you think the Seraphons found those codes?" Maria asked. "I doubt it," Derek replied. "If they had, they wouldn't need to lure us here. We need to find those codes ourselves." As they delved deeper into the temple, they uncovered more secrets about the Elisarians and their technology. They found a hidden chamber filled with ancient devices and a central console that appeared to be the weapon's control interface. "This is it," Derek said, his heart pounding. "But we need the codes to activate it." Determined to find the activation codes, Derek and his team scoured the ruins for clues. They discovered a series of hidden passages leading to a chamber filled with holographic recordings left by the Elisarians. The recordings detailed the Elisarians' struggle against the Seraphons, who had invaded their world and sought to conquer it. The Elisarians had developed advanced technologies to defend themselves, but ultimately, they had been overwhelmed. Their final hope lay in the weapon they had created, designed to disrupt the Seraphons' bioengineered enhancements. "This weapon could turn the tide," Maria said, her eyes wide with realization. "If we can activate it, we can level the playing field." The recordings also revealed the location of the Elisarian capital, where the activation codes were hidden. The team knew they had to reach the capital, but the journey would be perilous. "We don't have much time," Derek said. "The Seraphons will be looking for us. We need to move fast and stay under the radar." Leaving the ruins behind, the team set out towards the Elisarian capital. The jungle became even more treacherous as they ventured deeper, but their resolve never wavered. They navigated through dense undergrowth, crossed raging rivers, and climbed steep cliffs, driven by the hope of finding the codes. Along the way, they encountered remnants of Elisarian technology that aided their journey. Automated defense systems activated to protect them from the jungle's dangers, and ancient maps guided their path. The Elisarians, despite their extinction, seemed to be helping them from beyond the grave. Finally, they reached the outskirts of the Elisarian capital. The city lay in ruins, but its grandeur was still evident. Towering structures and intricate sculptures told the story of a once thriving civilization brought low by war. "We need to find the central archive," Derek said, leading the way through the crumbling streets. As they searched, they encountered more recordings, which provided valuable insights into the Elisarians' final days. The last message left by the Elisarian leader spoke of hope and the belief that their weapon would one day be used to save others from the Seraphon's tyranny. "This is it," Derek said as they reached the central archive. "Let's find those codes and end this once and for all." In the archive, they discovered the activation codes, encoded in a complex series of symbols. With the codes in hand, they now had the means to activate the Elisarian weapon. The team made their way back to the temple, ready to unleash the power that would change the course of their struggle. As they prepared to activate the weapon, Derek couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and responsibility. The fate of not just their crew, but countless lives across the galaxy rested on their shoulders. With the activation code securely in hand, Derek and his team returned to their temporary camp to finalize their plans. The atmosphere was tense, each member understanding the gravity of their mission. The next step was to infiltrate the Seraphon capital and use the codes to activate the ancient Elisarian weapon. "We're going to need a diversion," Derek said, gathering the crew. "Maria, you'll lead a team to create a disturbance at the edge of the city. That should draw their forces away from the central complex." Maria nodded, determination in her eyes. "We'll make sure they notice us." Derek turned to the rest of the team. "The rest of us will enter the capital through the underground tunnels we discovered earlier. Once inside, we'll head straight for the control center to activate the weapon." As night fell, the teams moved into position. Maria and her group set up explosive charges and began their assault on the outskirts of the city, causing chaos and drawing the Seraphon guards away from the central areas. Meanwhile, Derek led his team through the dark, winding tunnels beneath the city. The air was damp and filled with the echoes of distant battles. They navigated carefully, avoiding detection by Seraphon patrols. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the central complex. The building was heavily guarded, but the distraction had thinned out the defenses. Using the knowledge they had gained from the ruins, Derek and his team slipped inside and made their way to the control center. The control room was vast, filled with ancient Elisarian technology that hummed with power. Derek approached the central console and began inputting the activation codes. The symbols glowed as they were entered, and the room filled with a low, resonant hum. "Almost there," Derek muttered, his hands moving quickly over the controls. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and Queen Sarah entered, flanked by her elite guards. "You really think you can stop me?" she hissed, her eyes blazing with fury. Sarah's guards charged forward, engaging Derek's team in a fierce battle. Derek continued working on the console, determined to complete the activation sequence. The control room was filled with the sounds of clashing weapons and the shouts of combatants. Maria and her team, having accomplished their diversion, arrived just in time to join the fight. The room became a chaotic battlefield, with humans and Seraphons locked in mortal combat. Derek finally completed the activation sequence. The ancient machinery roared to life, and a beam of light shot up from the console, spreading through the city and beyond. The ground trembled as the Elisarian weapon began its work, disrupting the Seraphon's bioengineered enhancements. Sarah screamed in rage and pain as the weapon's effects hit her. Her strength faltered, and Derek saw his chance. He rushed towards her, determined to end the threat once and for all. They clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Despite the weakening effects of the weapon, Sarah was still a formidable opponent. Derek fought with everything he had, fueled by the knowledge of what was at stake. Maria and the rest of the crew held off the remaining guards, giving Derek the space he needed. With a final, desperate effort, he managed to disarm Sarah and deliver a decisive blow, knocking her unconscious. The remaining Seraphon forces, seeing their leader defeated and their enhancements failing, began to retreat. The weapon's power spread across the planet, rendering the Seraphons vulnerable and breaking their hold on the other species they had enslaved. Derek stood over the unconscious form of Queen Sarah, breathing heavily. The control room was eerily silent, the hum of the Elisarian weapon the only sound. The crew gathered around, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We did it," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's over." Derek nodded, but his eyes were on the console. "Not quite. We need to ensure the weapon's effects are permanent. The Seraphons can't regain their power." Together they worked to lock the weapon's settings, making its effects irreversible. The ancient Elisarian technology was complex, but with Maria's expertise and the knowledge they had gathered, they succeeded. As they finished, the building began to shake. The weapon's activation had destabilized the city's infrastructure. "We need to get out of here," Derek said urgently. The crew made their way out of the complex, navigating through collapsing tunnels and debris-filled corridors. They emerged into the open air, where the once mighty Seraphon capital now lay in ruins. The Seraphon forces had retreated, and the other species they had enslaved were beginning to emerge, blinking in the sunlight. There was a palpable sense of hope and freedom in the air. "We've given them a chance," Derek said, looking around at the liberated beings. "Now it's up to them to rebuild." Back at the Voyager, the crew prepared to leave Eden Prime. They had achieved their mission, but the galaxy needed to know the truth about the Seraphons and the Elisarians. Derek stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. "Set a course for the nearest Federation outpost," he ordered. "We have a lot to report." As the ship lifted off, leaving the recovering planet behind, Derek felt a sense of accomplishment and responsibility. The Voyager had not only survived, but had become a beacon of hope for countless beings. The journey was far from over, but with his crew by his side, Derek knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven their resilience and determination, and they were ready to continue exploring the vast unknown, bringing with them the promise of freedom and justice. The Voyager soared into the sky, the ruins of the Seraphon capital disappearing beneath the clouds. The crew's spirits were high, but a sense of solemnity pervaded the atmosphere. They had accomplished their mission, but the cost had been great. As they reached orbit, Derek called a meeting of his senior officers in the briefing room. The crew gathered, faces reflecting a mix of relief and exhaustion. "First, I want to commend each and every one of you," Derek began. "Your bravery and dedication have not only saved us, but countless others as well. We've dealt a significant blow to the Seraphons, but our work is not finished." Maria nodded in agreement. "We need to share what we've learned. The Federation and other allied species must be warned about the Seraphons and their experiments. We also need to ensure that the Elisarian weapon remains secure." Lieutenant Jackson, the ship's communications officer, spoke up. "I've already compiled all the data we gathered. We can transmit it to the nearest Federation outpost once we're in range." "Good," Derek said. "Make sure the message includes all the information about the Elisarian weapon and the Seraphon threat. We need to mobilize a response force to ensure the Seraphons don't try to reclaim their lost power." As the meeting concluded, Derek made his way to the ship's observation deck. He needed a moment to reflect on everything they had been through. The vastness of space stretched out before him, a reminder of both the dangers and wonders that awaited them. Maria joined him, her presence comforting. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain?" Derek sighed, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Just thinking about how much we've been through. We came here on a routine mission and ended up uncovering ancient secrets and facing a powerful enemy. It's a lot to process." Maria nodded, leaning against the railing. "We've made a difference, Derek. The Seraphon's reign of terror is over, and we've given hope to those who were oppressed. That's something to be proud of." "It is," Derek agreed. "But we also need to be vigilant. The galaxy is full of threats, and we can't let our guard down. The crew needs to know that their actions matter, that their bravery makes a difference." Maria placed a hand on his shoulder. "They do know, Derek. You've led us through some of the darkest moments, and we came out stronger because of it. The crew believes in you, and they believe in our mission." Derek smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Thank you, Maria. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I know we can handle it." As they stood there watching the stars, a sense of calm washed over them. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious, and now they had a new mission: to spread the truth and ensure that the sacrifices made were not in vain. The Voyager continued its journey through space, a symbol of hope and resilience. Derek knew that their adventure was far from over, but with his crew by his side, he was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would explore the unknown, uncover new mysteries, and protect the galaxy from those who sought to do harm. The story of the Voyager and its brave crew was just beginning, and Derek was determined to see it through to the end. As the stars streaked past, Derek felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. The universe was vast and full of possibilities, and the Voyager was ready to face them all.